Hello everyone. I hope I am live. We'll just wait for confirmation. Just give me a minute. Let me check if we are live or not. Yes, we are live. Great. So, hello everyone. My name is Chintan Shah and we are here for the round 2 analysis of Symbiosis entrance test for this year. I will quickly get into it. So the test structure, as discussed in the first slot as well, the test structure is simple. It is 60 questions to be solved in 60 minutes. You have 16 questions from general English, 16 from quantitative, 16 from general awareness, and 12 from analytical and logical reasoning. So this was the format. The duration was 60 minutes, and the marking scheme was one for every correct. And there was no negative marking, which means again it was expected that आप सारे के सारे 60 questions को attempt करो. Now, with that being said, let's get to the simple basics of the exam. There were a few things that you need to know. The first was that the user interface was pretty friendly. There was no surprises there. It was as expected that we had seen in the previous ones as well. So nothing out of the blue. The next is there were 4 different sections and you could switch between sections. So there was no problem as well. You could choose your order of the sections at the same time. आप ये देख सकते थे कि अच्छा आपको ये चाहिए या वो चाहिए, यहाँ से वहां जाना है या जो भी है. The next is again 60 minutes were given to you at the start. There was no sectional time limit. You had enough and as much time as you wanted for each and every section. And again, as the round 1 analysis had already, or the first attempt had already told us, there was no on-screen calculator as well. So you need not worry about it. Now, if you all have any questions with respect to the test or analysis, you all can put it in the chat. I will be taking up the questions towards the latter half of the analysis. Now I'll get into the nitty-gritties of each and every section. We'll go by each and every section and I'll share my analysis. What did I feel about the exam? So firstly, talking about general English, there were 16 questions that you had to solve. There were 2 questions from tenses. There were 2 questions from proverbs and idioms, one each. There was 1 question on figure of speech, around 3 to 4 questions on grammar, 3 to 4 questions on verbal reasoning, as in the critical reasoning questions that we have, assumption-based question and conclusion-based question. There were 4 questions from vocabulary and spellings. More or less, if I have to compare this particular general English section with respect to the previous attempt, as in round 1, the general temptation or the general feeling of the people that they had with respect to general English was that it was almost almost at a similar level of difficulty, or you could also say that it was slightly easier than the previous attempt, and therefore the level of difficulty is easy, where a genuine good attempt could be 14 or more than 14 out of 60. See, the whole idea here is that English being easy, English being a section जहाँ पे आप easily score कर सकते हो, you do not really require a lot of time. यहाँ पे you could have capitalized, and if you manage to get this score from here, आगे के sections के लिए it just makes your life a lot more easy. The ideal time, the ideal time that you could be looking at with respect to this particular section is almost around 10 to 12 minutes. हाँ, अगर आपका strength है ये topic और ये section, in that case आप इसको और कम time में कर सकते हो. You could have gotten it done in, let's say, around 8ish minutes. But realistically, I felt for the 16 questions that you had, around 12 minutes on an average is what you could have given, and you can easily score 14 plus marks. Next, moving on to quantitative. Now, this was a section which had the most number of surprises per se, if I might call them surprises. The first big surprise, so as compared to the first attempt, this time there were only 3 to 4 questions on arithmetic. Next, modern math, last time bhi ek hi tha, abhi bhi ek hi tha. Geometry was the first surprise. There were no questions on geometry. The last time we had 2 questions on geometry. This time there were no questions from geometry. Last time ke bhi questions fairly easy. The users had to find the parallelogram ka coefficient, the 4th vertex of a parallelogram, and you had to find the area of a triangle. Is बार कुछ भी नहीं था. Next, there were 4 questions on algebra as opposed to the 2 questions last time. तो वो geometry का पूरा algebra में shift हो गया है. And 3 questions from numbers as expected. And another surprise was DI. DI had 4 questions. So arithmetic में last time 6 to 7 questions थे, वो यहाँ पे transfer हो गए, and DI had 4 questions here as opposed to the 2 questions in the last attempt. Overall, the level of difficulty for quants was almost similar. If at all it's a strength, it could feel easier as well because the questions were slightly more direct and the questions in which you could get confused or you could get stuck were fairly less as compared to the previous attempt. Therefore, the genuine good attempt analysis is going to be the same as last time. Last time भी मैंने बोला था कि approximately 14 questions is what you should be targeting and try to get as much as you can out of that. Ideal time is 25 minutes. Now see, यहाँ पे quants ऐसा था कि आप लोग score कर सकते थे. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is accuracy, and therefore I would happily give those extra 2 to 3 minutes for the section if against it मुझे 2-3 question का marks correct extra मिल रहा है. So rather than giving 20 minutes and taking only 12 marks out of it, I would rather want to give 25 minutes and try to get almost 14 marks out of it. So around 13-14 in verbal, around 13-14 in quant set you up very nicely for the remaining two sections, because now for the next section, just giving you a precursor, the next section, which is general awareness. So the level of difficulty for general awareness as compared to the previous attempt was easy. पिछला जो अटेम्प्ट था वो ऑलमोस्ट अनसॉल्वेबल टाइप्स था, प्लस यू ओनली हैड अराउंड 4 or 5 क्वेश्चंस ऑन करंट अफेयर्स, जिसमें से अगेन 2 क्वेश्चंस G20 थे, तो अगर G20 छोड़ा होगा तो आप कर नहीं पाओगे, एंड देयरफॉर देयर वर अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स. This time the current affairs were almost 6 questions and static GK was 10. Overall, I felt that for general awareness, you could have scored slightly more than the previous attempt. पिछले में around 6 score करना was like a good effort. यहाँ पे I'll say 7-ish आप attempt कर सकते थे, around 7 to 8 आप fairly confidently attempt कर सकते थे, mainly because current affairs से ज्यादा था. So if you manage to get 5 out of the 6 in the current affairs and then बाकी 10 में से आपको अगर 2 marks भी आ जाते तो भी it would be considered as a good attempt. So overall my analysis is that you could have gotten around 7 to 8 marks confidently अगर आपको लग रहा है कि हाँ जीके मेरा decent है. Time around 8 minutes. So ideally what I felt was कि जीके आप third या last में कर सकते थे. Start with a strength. So either start with quant, LR or verbal, whichever is a strength. Second, go for the quant section or the verbal section, whichever you've not done, because majority questions. LR try करो कि आप second ना करो because सिर्फ 12 questions है. So what you can get on against that is very less. And that is why this is what I feel is the order. तो जीके इधर थर्ड होगा या लास्ट में होगा, बिकॉज जीके के क्वेश्चन जैसे कि इधर आपको आएगा या आपको नहीं आएगा. So it kind of is a double-edged sword and therefore it should be kind of tackled accordingly. And then coming to the last section, which is analytical and logical reasoning. So analytical and logical reasoning was the one section which was very similar to the previous attempt, no surprises per se, and therefore this is what was the breakup of the questions. There were 2 questions from verbal reasoning, which is critical reasoning again, तो जिसमें आपके पास assumption वाले questions etc वगैरह इधर भी थे. There were 2 questions from coding decoding, one each from clocks and calendars, one question on syllogisms. There were 2 to 3 questions which were series based. एक क्वेश्चन था ब्लड रिलेशन, एक क्वेश्चन था अरेंजमेंट्स. सो मोर और लेस एवरीथिंग सिमिलर टू व्हाट वी हैड लास्ट टाइम. बस हाँ, लास्ट टाइम देयर वर क्वेश्चंस ऑन असेंडिंग डिसेंडिंग ऑर्डर एज वेल, तो इस बार वो थोड़ा उन्होंने कम कर दिया था, बट हाँ यू स्टिल हैड अ फेयर शेयर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस एंड देयरफॉर दिस वाज अ सेक्शन व्हिच आइडियली यू कुड हैव अगेन kept similar to what was the last time. So according to my analysis, I would say that the level of difficulty was easy to moderate, not very difficult to navigate. अगर पिछले पेपर से भी कंपेयर करें, very similar, तो वहां पे भी the genuine good attempt was around 9 to 10. This time also I would say 9 to 10 out of 12 was good. Now यहाँ पे अगर आप लोग ध्यान दोगे तो LR में आप एक्चुअली एक्यूरेसी आपका हाई रख सकते थे, कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चंस कम as compared to the previous attempt. In that case, the overall difficulty was easy to moderate. A genuine good attempt would be 45 plus. Now, last time this was 43. This time we are going with 45 because one, quant became slightly easier. Verbal became very easy. So verbal had the biggest shift in terms of difficulty. Last time the verbal थोड़ा confusing भी था और थोड़ा tricky भी था. Quant was more or less direct. There were surprises within questions, but difficulty level में उतना कोई बहुत ज्यादा फर्क आ गया ऐसा नहीं था. LR exactly similar. In fact, GK became easy. So that is why the overall good attempts, according to me, is going to go high. And that I would say is approximately equal to 45-ish. And a good score could be 43. Last attempt में the good score was around 40-41. This time the score is going to go higher, and therefore accordingly आपका cut off भी high जाएगा for this particular slot. Everyone in this particular slot is going to definitely score higher if they've given both the attempts. One, because you already know कि पहला attempt कैसा था, तो you were better prepared, and second, paper overall भी easy था. Now, there were a couple of things that we also realized and that were brought to our notice by a few students as well, that in the quantitative section, there could have been an error in a couple of questions. It's just a hunch. It's not like, yeah, definitely galat hai, but there could be a printing mistake. There could be something that could have. So one question was about the salary. So one salary was given as 19,000, and the other was 1,95,000, or 15,000 and 1,95,000. ये कुछ तो बहुत difference था, तो it could have been maybe 1,50,000 and 1,95,000, or 15,000 and 19,500. But again, that's just one question. And the other question was about the profit and loss, कि आपने 6,900 में एक product को sell किया है and you gained a 15% profit, which means आपका cost price सीधा सीधा आपको 6,000 मिल जाएगा. He sold one more product at 10%. It was, I guess, 10% loss. तो आपका cost price या selling price कितना होगा? So none of the options seemed to match is what was told. So हाँ, तो per annum का जो दिया था. Okay, so the answer, I guess. Okay, so it's again, as I told you, these were things that were told to us by a few students. So there could have been an error. I'm not saying that there was definitely an error. It could have been. जो भी होगा, SET आपको clarification दे देगा. You do not need to go around saying कि अरे ये गलत ही है या वैसा ही है. It's just what has been brought to the notice. We or no one is in a position where they could actually have in a way challenged it or anything. जो भी होगा clarification आ जाएगा. You don't need to worry about it. And please do not go around telling people कि अरे ये ऐसा है या वो वैसा है. Overall, पिछले attempt के लिए the cutoff was around 40 to 41. This time, the cutoff is going to go slightly higher, and we are expecting that 43 could be a good enough score that you should be targeting to be able to get through to the next round. Talking about the next round, there is either a 50-50 weightage or a 70-30 weightage, depending which college are you targeting. And at the same time, जब SCT का इन्होंने launch किया था, as in the exam and everything was launched, at that time they had told that we are going to be following a 50-50 approach. But recently on the website, it's also being shown that it's going to be a 70-30 approach. So we will just have to wait and watch. They will give us more and more clarifications about the same. Now, this is what is going to be the final approach. इसके आगे अब 22nd is when the tentative dates for the results have been announced. 22nd के आसपास कभी भी, it could be 21, 22 or 23, results आ जाएंगे and they will declare the dates for the upcoming processes. With that, I will now take up a few questions that you have put in the chat. So cutoff for Noida. So ideally for Noida, the cutoff could go again anywhere around 39-40. Your target has to be to improve or maximize the scoring that has been done. But again, उसके अलावा हैदराबाद, बैंगलोर, again एक मार्क डिफरेंस पे होगा. If let's say Pune, which is the best campus, goes for 43, बाकी सब 42, 41, 40, 39 उसी ऑर्डर में रहेंगे more or less. उसके अलावा scores will be normalized. Yes, so it's not कि एक slot का अलग कट ऑफ, अगले slot का अलग कट ऑफ. Eventually they will normalize the scores of both the attempts, and accordingly आपको आपका जो final कट ऑफ होगा वो उसके basis पे आएगा. You get your scores as it is. The cutoffs will be normalized basis the first attempt and the second. So दोनों का जो भी आपका score होगा, eventually you get the first attempt का score, second, and the best of the two is what is going to be taken. Uh, yes, the profit and loss question was weird. So as I mentioned, there was, again, I'm not saying galat tha. It is what was told to us by a few students that there were a few irregularities and the options kind of did not match. But again, we'll have to wait and watch. Answer keys, जहां तक मुझे पता है, they are not going to be releasing the answer keys. Directly आपका जो है result वो आएगा. Yes, Aditya, the options were wrong. So that is something that even we have realized. सो इवा अगर आपने दोनों अटेम्प्ट्स दिए हैं तो अप्रोक्सीमेटली 41 के आसपास शुड बी द कट ऑफ फॉर द फर्स्ट वन, 43 के आसपास शुड बी द कट ऑफ फॉर द सेकंड वन. सो द कट ऑफ्स, दे वोंट बी रिलीजिंग द कट ऑफ्स, बट या बोथ द अटेम्प्ट्स विल बी बेस्ड और मार्क्ड बेसिस देयर इंडिविजुअल स्लॉट्स. ठीक है, बट द स्कोर्स इवेंचुअली लाइक डिफिकल्टी लेवल एंड एवरीथिंग को कंसीडरेशन में लेके वो इवेंचुअल नॉर्मलाइज हो जाता है. सो यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी एट एन एडवांटेज और एट अ डिसएडवांटेज अगर आपने एक ही अटेम्प्ट दिया है या दोनों दिए हैं. या फिर अगर आपने सिर्फ सेकंड दिया है तो यू डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट इट. Soumya, the cutoffs will not be basis the first or the second. It is going to be first का एक cutoff, second का एक cutoff. But again, आपका individual जो भी cutoff होगा वो normalize किया जाएगा across the slots that we have. Yes, there that is a possibility. SICSR के लिए cutoff could be approximately around I guess 39 ish होना चाहिए इस attempt के हिसाब से. 39-40 if you are targeting a BCA. अगर आप BBIT टारगेट करो तो थोड़ा ज्यादा होगा. सो ये जो कट ऑफ मैं बता रहा हूँ 43 इज बेसिस द टॉप कॉलेजेस, मतलब द SCMS कॉलेजेस दैट वी हैव. बट फॉर लिबरल आर्ट्स, बट फॉर इकोनॉमिक्स एक्सेट्रा उन सबका कट ऑफ स्लाइटली उससे कम होगा. ओवरऑल कट ऑफ अराउंड 43 फॉर दिस अटेम्प्ट इज व्हाट वी आर एक्सपेक्टिंग. नहीं, दोनों का मिला के नहीं निकलेगा. फर्स्ट का कट ऑफ अलग होगा, सेकंड का कट ऑफ अलग होगा. बट द लाइक दे विल बी कंसिडरिंग द डिफिकल्टीज ऑफ बोथ. सो आपका अगर फर्स्ट अच्छा गया है, सेकंड अच्छा उससे ज्यादा अच्छा गया है, सेकंड में ज्यादा स्कोर होगा, डज नॉट मीन कि आपके दोनों एग्जाम्स का कट ऑफ सेम नहीं होगा. दोनों का कट ऑफ अलग आ जाएगा. नॉर्मलाइजेशन भले ही वो कर रहे होंगे. आपका फर्स्ट स्लॉट इज एन इंडिविजुअल अटेम्प्ट, सेकंड स्लॉट इज एन इंडिविजुअल अटेम्प्ट, तो उसके हिसाब से आपका स्कोर आएगा. अलग होगा कट ऑफ. डोंट रियली वरी अबाउट द कट ऑफ्स. whatever it is, it will be declared. Bangalore के लिए कट ऑफ for this attempt could be around 41. But again, see, this is only half the battle. So as I told you, this is only half the battle. अभी you still have your interviews, अभी you still have your VAT. तो उसके ऊपर भी इक्वली फोकस करना चालू करो. Start preparing for the same, and that is something that will eventually help you get over the line. So that is what is going to be the last piece of advice that I want to give. More or less, I have covered all the exams. नहीं, इंटरव्यूज इरेस्पेक्टिव नहीं होते हैं. आपके स्कोर्स के बेसिस पे कट ऑफ आते हैं. कट ऑफ के बेसिस पे शॉर्टलिस्ट होता है. शॉर्टलिस्ट के हिसाब से आपके इंटरव्यूज होते हैं. सो इट इज नॉट कि आपने एग्जाम दिया ही है तो इंटरव्यू होगा ही. सो डोंट रियली वरी अबाउट इट. My overall analysis of the two attempts was that the first one was slightly more difficult, the second one was easy. Particularly, the first one had a more difficult GK section and a slightly moderate verbal section. यहाँ पे quants में there were surprises, but difficulty almost same था. LR में difficulty almost same था. But verbal became easy and GK became easy. So the second slot was something which was comparatively easier. And with that, I guess I have taken up all the questions. Safe score is going to be 42 to 43 in this particular attempt. Okay. Yeah. There are any more questions? No. Fair enough. So with that, we'll stop here. And thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in, and all the best to everyone for your other exams. We have Rohtak coming up. We have Indore coming up. We have IPMAT coming up. So all the IPM courses are up on offer. At the same time, if people have their NPATs coming up, all the best. And thank you so much.